Good morning. This is English 7 for March the 31st on Tuesday. I hope you're having a good morning, and I do hope it is the morning while you're doing this and that you're not doing this at midnight, because I know you don't do your best work at midnight. So I really do hope that you're doing it this morning. Boy, isn't God good? He's just given us a beautiful day and opportunity to serve him. You say, Mrs. Turner, how can I serve God? And I'm sitting in my apartment, I'm sitting in my house, and there's nothing I can do. I'm not seeing anyone. Do you know that you can serve God by serving your family? You can serve them. You can do things for them. It's like, you don't know my siblings. It doesn't matter. God gave you those siblings. And God gave you your family. And so number one, be appreciative of the family he gave you. And I say, well, Mr., you don't understand my brother. You don't understand my sister. It doesn't matter. God chose those people to be your family. And you know what? God wants to use you to be a good testimony to them. I hope you're being a good testimony this morning. Today we're going to look at, well, first I want to review. I want to go over some things that we've already done. First, we said that a noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. A verb is a word of action, or it is a state of being. If it's a state of being verb, we call it a linking verb if it's the main verb. Now we know there are a few words like taste, feel, smell, sound. Those are also linking verbs, okay? Now, what about an adjective? What does an adjective do in our sentence? An adjective describes a person, place, thing, or idea. It describes a noun or a pronoun. I have on an orange sweater. I have brown eyes. Okay, I'm describing things. I am a tall lady. Okay, when I talk about a place, maybe I want to say Hawaii is a beautiful place. What kind of a place is it? It's a beautiful place. Okay, someday I'm gonna to travel to England to see Buckingham Palace. That's like a dream, not a real thing that's ever gonna happen, but you know, never know. God does all kinds of miraculous things. He could send me to England someday on a trip. But when we describe things, we would say London is foggy. Okay, it's well known for its fog. We're describing a place. Okay, the words that describe a person, place, thing, or idea, it describes them. In other words, it describes a noun or a pronoun is called an adjective. And I keep using the word pronoun. What's a pronoun? A pronoun is a word that takes the place of the noun. You don't want to say, Mrs. Turner is talking. Mrs. Turner is teaching us English. Mrs. Turner is wearing an orange sweater. No, you could say Mrs. Turner is talking. She is teaching English. She is wearing an orange sweater. The word she is a pronoun. It takes the place of my noun. Those are the words like he, she, it, we, they, who, whom, these and those. Those are all pronouns. We memorized those earlier in the year. Then we said there are words that describe a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. What kind of word is that? It is an adverb, okay? Adverbs tell us about the action that's taking place. Now, for just a moment, think back to adjective. What are the questions that an adjective asks? An adjective answers the questions, which one, what kind, how much, how many, or whose. An adverb answers the questions, where, when, how often, to what extent, why, or under what condition. These are words that questions that adverbs answer. Now, we learned that there are some rules and some ways to identify adverbs. Most adverbs, most ly words are adverbs, not all, okay? But most are going to be an adverb. But when you're using an adverb, if you're comparing a statement, you're making a statement about one thing. He ran fast. How did he run? Fast. That is called a positive statement, okay? Now, if I want to compare two, if I want to say that Leo ran fast, That's a positive statement. But if I want to say Logan ran faster than Leo, that is called a comparative. I am comparing two people. I'm comparing Logan and Leo, okay? Since those two boys are being compared, only two, then I would say that that is a comparative statement. Most of the time when you have a comparative statement, you use an ER word or a more before the word. Here's a good rule of thumb. If the adverb is a one-syllable word, like fast, we're going to say add an ER and make it faster, okay? If it's a longer word, courageously, okay? Courageously has several syllables, okay? So if I want to say that Emmanuel courageously faced his giant, whatever that giant is, Emmanuel, okay? But if I want to say like Emily faced her giant, how? If I want to compare it to Emmanuel, she faced it more courageously than Emmanuel, okay? Now, why? I'm going to use more courageously because the adverb courageously is multiple syllables long. Again, rule of thumb, one syllable, use ER. 2, 3 more, usually the 3, that's a good transition mark. 3 syllable words are going to use more or most. More if you're comparing two. If I'm comparing 3 or more things or 3 or more people, then I have to use EST or ER. If I want to say Mrs. Turner drives the fastest of all the teachers, okay? That means I'm being compared to all of the teachers at City Baptist. Now, I hope that's not true. I try not to speed. I'm getting much better because it's wrong to speed. And I can't say that I never do that, but I try not to speed, all right? Now, what if I'm comparing someone or something and there's 3? That's called a superlative. Okay, now we've already done these. Comparatives are 2, superlatives are 3. ER or more is for 2 items or people being compared. EST or most is for 3. Okay, let's look at page 179. This was your homework the other night. We did part of it in class, you did part of it for homework, but I'm gonna go over all of them just to kind of get this refreshed in our mind. Hebron lay closer to Shechem than Beersheba did. You did the mowing better than the edging you did for me, because you're comparing how you mowed to how you edged. Number 3, and again, I know we did these. The snail travels more slowly than the energetic ant. More slowly. Slowly is 2 syllables, so I'm going to use more, but I'm only comparing 2 things, so I'm going to use the word more, not most. Of all of the men in Congress, oh, how many men are in Congress? 1, 2, or more? More. So it's going to be a superlative. Of all of the men in Congress, he acted most courageously. I used most because courageously is courageously 4 syllables. I had to count it out. Okay, it's more than 2 syllables. Okay, it's more than 2 syllables, and so I'm going to use a word, most or more, and because it's all of them, I'm going to say most. Sorry. This plane flew lower than the helicopter did. You're only comparing this plane and that helicopter. The baby began crying more loudly as he became more hungry. Okay, you're comparing his crying now to his crying after he was more hungry. He cried more loudly. Polycarp died more nobly than his persecutors lived. You're comparing Polycarp and how he died to how the people that persecuted him lived. But we're looking at them not as an individual persecutors. We're comparing all of them as one unit, okay? So it's more nobly. Solomon ruled more wisely, Solomon ruled most wisely of all the kings of Israel. It's not what I thought it was going to say, okay? Solomon ruled most wisely of all the kings of Israel. Why is that true? That is a true statement. How do we know that? Because in our homeroom devotions, guys, we were learning about Solomon, and we learned that he had the opportunity to ask God for whatever he wanted, and he asked God for wisdom. Help him to judge God's people righteously. Because he asked for wisdom, God gave him the other things, the wealth and the fame and the prosperity and the victories over his enemies. Okay? Number 9, the Samaritan acted more kindly than the other travelers did. Now, you had to write, your homework was exercise B. And I hope you wrote really great sentences on them. We'll share some of those sentences on the video maybe later. Let's turn the page to 180. There are a few words, and I've written them on the board. No, not. Now remember, not can also be in apostrophe T when it's a contraction. None, never, no one, nothing, hardly, scarcely. Now, these words, no, not, none, never, no one, and nothing, are easy for us to see that those are negative words because there isn't anything, okay? The word hardly and scarcely, sometimes kids think, why is that a negative word? Because we're using it in a negative context here, okay? So these words are what we're going to call negatives, negative words. You know, God doesn't want us to live with the idea, well, he did wrong, so I'm going to get back at him. Have you ever heard the statement, 2 wrongs don't make it right? Okay. My mom used to say that when my sisters and I would fight. I would say, but Mom, Kelly or Beth did, and Mom would always say, but that doesn't make what you did right. She would get a spanking for what she did, and I'd get a spanking for what I did, okay? Maybe she started the fight, but I retaliated. So if I retaliated, if I said something unkind, if I took her toy or whatever, I was just as wrong. And so just because one person does wrong, that doesn't give you an excuse to do wrong. Sin is sin. And who's responsible for your sin? You are. Now, God doesn't want us to use that as an excuse, but in grammar, we don't want to use 2 negatives in the same sentence, okay? 2 negatives in the same sentence will make your sentence wrong, okay? So let's look at number 5 on page 180. It says, avoid double comparisons. Never use ER and more. Or do not use EST and most. Okay, some of you girls, she is my most bestest friend. No, she is your best friend, okay? Because you have many friends, but she's the best. She is the best, okay? But she can't be the most bestest. And I know that sometimes we say those things just being silly, but really, by the time we're in junior high, guys, we need to make sure that the way we speak is much more mature and much more clear. We want to speak accurately. We want to make sure that we're learning to convey the thoughts of our heart, the thoughts of our mind to the person that we're speaking to. Okay, so don't say more in ER or most in EST, only one of those. Number 6 says use a comparative degree when talking about 2 persons or 2 things, and we've already talked about that. Use a superlative when you're talking about 3 or more, and again, we've already talked about that. Number 7, this is the one for today. Avoid the double negatives. The following words are called negatives, and those are the words on my board. Say them with me. No, not everybody say them. I know some of you aren't. Ready? No, not, none, never, no one, nothing, hardly, scarcely. One more time, read them together. No, not, none, never, no one, nothing, hardly, scarcely. These are negative words in grammar, and you're allowed to use 1 per sentence. You cannot use both, okay? You cannot say no, never. That's a no, 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 okay? One negative word per sentence. Let's look at exercise A. And the first thing I want you to do is cross out the cross out and write the word circle. Cross out, and write circle. Cross out the IN. So the directions say, circle each correct form in parentheses. There aren't no or any cookies in the pantry anymore. Okay, well, we already used NT. Since I use the NT, I'm not allowed to use the word no, because then I would have two. So I can't use the word no, but I can use the word any, okay? There aren't any cookies in the pantry anymore. That would be my house with quarantine. Josephine sings most or more beautifully than her sister does. Does she sing most or more? She sings more beautifully because we're comparing Josephina and her sister. Number 3, the pioneers pushed more farther or farther into the open plains. The pioneers pushed farther. Good. Of the 2 horses, Star can run faster or fastest. She can run faster because we're comparing how many? 2. Sally cannot find no one or anyone at the party that she knows from her class. Sally cannot find no one or anyone at the party that she knows from her class. She cannot find anyone. Why? Because no one is a negative word, and so is the word not in cannot. So I had to choose a word that was not a negative word. A diamond sparkles brilliantlier or more brilliantly than a ruby. Okay? How many syllables are in brilliantly? Okay, it's more than 2, right? So am I going to use ER? No, I'm going to say it's a diamond sparkles more brilliantly than a ruby. Of the 5 dogs, the golden retriever was the more quiet or most quiet? Most quiet, because we're talking about 5. We couldn't or could hardly raise our tent because of the strong wind. We cannot use the ENT because we had the word hardly. Hardly is negative. Okay, so I cannot use the ENT, so I'm going to say we could hardly raise our tent. Amanda shut the door more forcefully or more forcefully-er than she intended. More forcefully. Samuel Adams spoke out more bravely or most bravely than any other Bostonian. Okay, we have Samuel Adams and we have other Bostonian. Okay, we have a Bostonian as a group, right? So we're going to say that Samuel spoke out more bravely. Several workers stayed later or more later than normal to finish the job. Several workers stayed later. Good job, guys. Number 12, I can't never find or I can't ever find. I'm gonna read all of this. There's 2 questions here. So I can't never or ever find nothing or anything in this store. Okay, now before we go down the sentence, we have the word can't. We have an NT, so I cannot choose any of these words because I already have a negative in my sentence. I can't ever find anything in this store. Okay, tonight you're going to do 13 through 20 for your homework. 13 through 20, you're just going to finish exercise A. Exercise A, you're going to finish 13 through 20. Notice that there are a couple of sentences on the top of the next page. Please do this before you take your quiz. All right, have a good day.